If you also get irritated by what others say and can't maintain the basic need of happiness in life, then Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, is written just for you. In this video, I will discuss the summary, important concepts and life lessons from The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Let's get started. Number 1. Happiness comes from solving problems. Every day, we face some kind of problem, whether it's related to studies, relationships, or your business. That's why it wouldn't be wrong to say that problems are a part of life that we can't run away from. When we run away from a problem, we unknowingly end up creating another problem. That's why trying to find happiness by running away from problems is a childish approach. Most people are under the misconception that they can't be happy because of their problems. On the contrary, Mark Manson says that you find happiness when you solve your problems. As time goes on, your problems also improve and upgrade, and by solving those problems, you become even happier. For example, let's say your problem is that you are physically quite skinny. To solve this problem, you join a gym. Now you face new problems like waking up early in the morning and working out at the gym. But if you follow this routine daily, you make physical improvements and ultimately, compared to before, you feel happier. Number 2, you are not so special. There are some people in the world who consider themselves special and want others to give them attention and treat them in a special way, even if they don't really deserve it. Because such people give too much importance to their ego. They feel as if the earth revolves around them and that everything exists just to satisfy them. We can divide such people into 2 categories. First, those who consider themselves the best and see others as losers, and that's why they believe they should be treated in a special way. The second type are those who see themselves as victims and losers, and instead of taking responsibility for their difficult lives, they blame others. Both categories of people have ego in common, which demands special attention. But the truth is that no one is special and no one's destiny is fixed. You can take your life in any direction you want because internally, everyone's potential is equal. The only difference is that some people recognize this and work to improve themselves while others do not. That's why instead of considering yourself special, you should focus on sharpening your potential and skills. Number 3, suffering equals growth. When we set a goal and want to achieve it quickly, it's natural for problems to arise. Sometimes our struggle reaches its peak and we start thinking about quitting halfway through. At that time, we need to have clarity about why we want to achieve that goal. Every goal is connected to some of your values and emotions. If you are fully committed to your values, you will definitely overcome those struggles and achieve that goal. Different people are committed to different values. Some values help you grow consistently and become a better person. You can call these good values, whereas some values degrade us as human beings. That's why you should choose values that help you improve. Good values that you can adopt include honesty, curiosity, creativity, being innovative, doing charity, and having self-respect. Number 4, be responsible. Friends, responsibility is a kind of power that gives us a sense of freedom in life. Because when we take responsibility for our mind and our reactions, we also gain the ability to control and manage them. The only question is whether you accept your responsibility or not. If you want, you can make excuses and back away from your responsibility, and most people do exactly that. But by doing so, your life also goes out of your control, and as a consequence, your actions and reactions are left to your circumstances and subconscious mind. What I'm saying is that you are responsible for how you react in any situation, and it is this very reaction that shapes your emotions, whether they develop on the negative or positive side. For example, suppose a newborn baby has been left outside your house. Now, even if you have no connection to this incident, if you are responsible, you will make a proper inquiry and report it to the police. But you won't just sit idly by because you are responsible. Number 5, be consistent. Once, the famous painter Picasso was sitting in a cafe, drawing something on a napkin. A lady was watching him as he drew. When Picasso got up to leave, the lady stopped him and offered to buy the painting he had made on the napkin. Picasso says that its price is $20,000. The lady, surprised, says, "But you made it in just 2 minutes." Picasso laughs and says, "No, it took me 50 years to make this." Friends, you too must have mastered something in some field or work that you can do in just a few minutes. But do you forget the time you invested in learning that skill? No doubt. You also agree that becoming skillful requires a lot of practice and dedication. In the same way, there is no shortcut to success. Rather, years of practice eventually take the form of success one day. As simple as it sounds, it's much harder to implement. To achieve success in any field, you need to practice with consistency and dedication. There is a famous quote by Russell that I do not fear a player who has practiced 1,000 shots once, but I am afraid of the player who has practiced one shot 1,000 times. That's why you should always focus on your practice, because that's what really matters for success. Number 6, the way to good relationships. Friends, we have to maintain different relationships in this world, and each one holds a different level of importance for us. Business relationships remain at a certain level. Family relationships are much deeper, but often people are unable to manage these relationships properly. Basically, there are 2 reasons for this. First, having too many expectations, and second, a lack of trust. The more you depend on people, the more your expectations from them increase. That's why, to minimize your expectations, you also need to minimize your dependence. A healthy relationship is one in which both sides are capable of hearing yes and no and can understand each other's viewpoints. That's why the importance of trust increases. When you trust someone, it means that the other person will understand your point of view and will help as much as possible to solve your problem. Now the question is, how can you earn someone's trust? The most important factor that builds trust is honesty. When you honestly share everything with your partner and develop mutual understanding, trust is automatically built as well. Although it takes quite a bit of time to build trust, this is the best and most effective way to strengthen your relationship. Number 7, we will die one day. Charles Bukowski, who was a brilliant writer, wrote that life is a circus and one day we will all die. This is the destiny of all of us. That's why we should be compassionate towards each other. But we get caught up in trivial matters. Friends, in India, our sages and monks have worked on the topics of death and God since ancient times more than any other country has. Because the more we understand death, the more we come to know about life. Mark Manson says that when we accept our own death, we also gain clarity about our addictions and habits, and we can overcome them more easily. But on the other hand, we are also afraid of death because we believe that death ends our existence. But in reality, that's not the case. Death is considered the greatest surprise in the world. Perhaps you have read about the conversation between Yudhishthira and Yaksha. In that, Yaksha asks Yudhishthira, "What is the greatest surprise in this world?" Yudhishthira replies, "Death is the greatest surprise in the world because throughout our lives, we see someone or the other dying every day. Yet we still behave as if we will never die." That's why, for a meaningful life, it is important that you understand death. If you deepen your understanding of death, it takes your life in a new direction. So guys, this was the summary, important concepts, and life lessons from The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Friends, you'll find the link to this book in the video description. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video with more book summaries and life lessons like this. Thanks for watching.